What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, don't have a whole lot of time to talk about this today because I'm planning to go to the Atlanta United game tonight. Not because Atlanta United are any good, but they have Annie Ann's pretzels at the stadium now, so I have to go. But the game just wrapped up, comfortable 4-1 win. But let's talk about the negatives because my God, that first half. Oh, I don't even know what to say other than Maresca got it so wrong. Not even just the lineup, because obviously starting Gusto and Betis, I even said that I would not be surprised to see them starting. It's the way we started. We started just like what we've seen for the most of the second half of the season. It's slow, it's building out of the back, it's negative. We're basically just passing around the back until we give it away. That's all it really is. So that was more so my frustration, is that after the Forest match where it felt like we were not playing slow and dull, we were still knocking around in the back a bit, but it felt like we were more willing to go forward when we needed to. And this one, it's back to, nope, we can't go forward quickly. We can't go long. We have to go short. Even if it means we give the ball away and give up a goal, we have to go short because that's Maresca ball. And it was so frustrating to watch. Thankfully, second half, the subs came on. That's really what changed the game because we got a couple of players off that should not have been playing, to be fair, but also just players that are more comfortable with keeping possession and are not as likely to give the ball away. But really, it was one of those games where Betis wanted it more than we did for most of the match, but the quality shone through. They have some good players, but I would say they're probably a low to mid-table Premier League side. I'd say they'd probably be fighting relegation if they were actually in the Premier League. And that's no disrespect to them, it's just the Premier League is really tough. And to be fair, that is the toughest type of team that we face. Most of the teams that we faced, I would say, are League 2, if that, in this competition. So to face a team that I'm saying is Premier League quality, even if it is bottom half, maybe relegation side, that's still much, much better than anybody else we faced, which is why they gave us a bit more of a game today. But looking at Maresca, as I said, we did not start the game well. We went back to the tactics that we've seen from him for most of this half of the season. I think his lineup was not great. As I said, I was not surprised to see Gusto or Badiashile on the back line. I don't agree with it, though. I don't think it's a good choice in this match. I think you should be starting Chalobah and Colwill. You should be starting James today. And on top of that, you're also inverting Gusto, which is a terrible decision. As we've seen multiple times this season, this is just the first game where it could be exploited. Because most of the other games where he's done that and it hasn't worked, it's just we've not been as effective going forward, but the teams in this competition have been able to capitalize on the fact that Gusto is not an inverting fullback. As far as the subs that came on, James coming on at halftime was a good decision by him. I think also bringing on Colwill for Badiashile, great decision. Sancho coming on for Neto, also a good decision. Dewsbury-Hall coming on for Jackson whenever he started to feel his hamstring, thought was also a good decision just to kind of solidify our midfield just a little bit more. And then Guiu coming on at the end for Palmer, not terrible, but I do have to beg the question, what does Madueke have on Maresca, and or does he give really good head? Because why was he still on the pitch? Somebody explain that to me. Neto was having a bad game too, but in my opinion, Madueke was our second worst player on the pitch today. Gusto came off at halftime, he was our worst. Madueke was a very close second, though. The fact that he finished the match makes no sense. And the fact that George doesn't come on after the season he's had in this competition. You want to reward Badiashile and Gusto and Dewsbury-Hall to give them time for all the Jorgensen as well for the minutes they put in this competition. What about George? George has been just as effective in this, and he's not played in the past few matches. What the hell? So to see Madueke finish the match after the performance he put in today, and to see George not come off the bench, I think that's awful. It's a terrible look. It makes me worried that they're going to be looking to get rid of him, even though he's been a very effective player for us, even at 18. And it's so frustrating. And it once again shows me Maresca's not the guy. He's finished the season well. He got us Champions League. He won us this trophy. That's fantastic. I don't see him going much further than that. This seems like his level. Conference League, that seems like his level. But I don't think he's going to have the coaching acumen or the tactical mindset to take us to the next level and either make us champions of England or champions of Europe. I just don't see it happening. As far as individuals, I've kind of already touched on most of them, but Jorgensen, not great today. He made a couple of decent saves, but he has so many moments where you can just see he's not good enough. The dropped cross that he had in the first half that was basically right to him, and he kind of fumbles it and then picks it back up. There was the cross or the free kick that came in, and instead of punching it away, he tries to get a hand to it and almost settles it for a Betis player. Thankfully, I think it was just beyond them, but terrible decision to not just get it out of the box. And then there was another couple moments where just with his hands, he doesn't look comfortable. And that's definitely something that I've seen for multiple games this season. I think back to the Morecambe match. He dropped the ball so many times in that match. It was kind of frustrating to watch. Gusto, like I said, he was our worst player today. This probably is the end of him. He looked so far off it. His passes were terrible. He's the one that gives it away for the goal. He couldn't complete a pass. Defensively, he was getting skinned way too easily. It was just not a good look for him. And after the season he's had, this was the game that he needed to step up and show, hey, I've still got something to prove. I've still got some quality. And he proved the exact opposite. Chalobah, decent game from him. I thought the first half was a little shaky, but once Colwill came in especially, I felt like he looked a lot more comfortable. And I think that is something about Chalobah that I will criticize him on, because as much as I think he's one of our best defenders right now at the club, I also do think there is a little bit of youthfulness to his game, and not in a good way, in that he needs somebody else on the pitch that is also comfortable, or else it's going to be hard for him. So for instance, with Betis on the pitch, Betis is not comfortable. He's not a comfortable defender. He's not comfortable on the ball. Hang on one sec. Apologies for all the flashing. I still had Paramount Plus up on my monitor, and it's flashing a lot from the commercials. Anyways, but Betis not a comfortable defender, and so I think it kind of seeps into Chalobah's game because he needs somebody else in there that can do their job as well. He's not necessarily a leader yet. I think he has the potential to get there, but for right now especially, he's still got the potential. If he doesn't have a comfortable partner in the defense with him, I think it's tough for him to cope at times. Betis, I mean, he's probably the worst defender at the club right now since Disasi's out on loan. Yeah, it showed. I realize Maresca's given him some faith today after how he's performed in this competition, which, to be fair, even against some of the lesser teams, he's not been great. So today was just an example of we faced a team that was a bit tougher, a bit more difficult to go up against defensively, and it showed for him that he's just not really got what it takes to be a defender at a top level club. Cucurella I thought was comfortable, kept Antony quiet, which was the best thing about today's game, because especially after all of the build up to this match, I was really hoping that Antony would not get a single thing out of today, and he didn't, and that was fantastic to watch. Cucurella just constantly shut him down. He had like one decent cross in, but everything else was just not anything to write home about. Caicedo actually had a pretty poor match today. It's weird, especially since he got the goal too, so I'm sure that probably bumped up his rating a bit. But he was giving the ball away quite a bit today, and defensively I felt like there were a couple of moments where he wasn't fully turned on, focused, and ready to go. It was just, for his standard, it was a bit of a lackluster performance. And that's not saying he was terrible, but by his standard, it was kind of bad. It was a bit of a frustrating match for him. Fernandez obviously gets the goal that equalizes, and I thought overall looked fine today. I think he did some good stuff in the midfield on the ball, made some things happen. Defensively is where he does lack a bit, and I think there were a couple times that was exposed today. But for the most part, I think he worked really hard, tracked back, did his best. Madueke, as I said, second worst player on the pitch, and in my opinion, he should be gone, but Maresca seems to like him, because if you're not going to take him off the pitch after what we just saw today, you're never going to take him off the pitch. He's going to be playing every match, because as long as he's breathing, he's playing, right? Like that's Maresca and how he feels about Madueke, which is stupid. Palmer had a bit of a quiet first half, but I think that was to be expected after they got the goal, because they were packing it in. They weren't giving him a whole lot of space to create. But as the second half wore on, the game got a little bit more stretched. They started to lose their legs. They weren't putting pressure on him quite as much, and it allowed him the time and space to start to create like we know he can. And so sure enough, gets 2 assists. 2 great balls in, onto Fernandez's head, onto Jackson's chest. Both great assists, and it's what he's capable of. And I hope we can see that Palmer next season more, throughout the entire season, and not drop off. But again, I do think Maresca's either got to change how he wants to play, or we have to change Maresca, because I think the way he wants to play, we saw in the first half, we saw for most of the second half of the season, it doesn't benefit players like Palmer. It doesn't benefit those creative, free-flowing players that like to get into space and make things happen. I mean, look at what happened with Grealish at Man City. He was one of those players that was so creative and wanted to just run at players and try to do something. And Pep said, no, that's not how we play. And now he's just totally shit, which That's all he really had going for his game, nothing else. So it's no surprise that he's a terrible player now once you take the one good thing out of his game. But I think Maresca being a Pep study is kind of the same way. He doesn't want that free-flowing creativity from these players. He wants to be calm, comfortable. He would rather have Palmer turn back and play it backwards than he would have him try to turn a defender and go at them. And we've seen that for most of the second half of the season. It's been those few moments where the players just said, screw it, I'm going to take this defender on and do something about it. Those are the moments where we've seen the goals come. But that's not how Maresca wants to play. That's not how he typically has the team playing. So, like I said, Maresca's got to change or he's just got to leave if we want to see Palmer, I think, consistently at his best throughout the entire season. Also, we do need to have a true number 9 like Jackson that makes runs like a striker to open up the space for him, because we also saw that without a striker up there, when you're playing Neto or George or Nkuku, any of those types of players as a false 9, Palmer doesn't have the space to create that he wants to have. Neto, I mean, like I said, he was not having a good game either, giving the ball away too easily. His crosses weren't great. His shots weren't great. It was just a pretty poor game, and he's been pretty hit or miss all this season, so this was another one of his misses, in my opinion. Jackson, first half wasn't that great, but I think a lot of that is down to, again, how the game was going. We were not really getting down the pitch with speed. We weren't getting in behind them at all. So a lot of how they were playing after they scored and how we were playing after they scored, it was not beneficial to a striker like Jackson who wants to make runs in behind. Once the game started to open up a little bit, we did see him start to grow into it a little bit more, start to make some good runs. Obviously, people will point out the mistakes, but as I've said many times, he does a lot to help the team. A lot of his runs help the team. I mean, heck, the one that I'm sure people are going to point out and be like, oh, I can't believe he wasted that one-on-one chance because of the bad touch. Look at where that starts, though. It starts from him working back hard, putting pressure on, winning the ball, nice little clever flick around, gets flicked in behind for him, and then he's off. And yes, it's a bad touch. If we don't have him on the pitch, we don't get that chance because not many players are capable of doing what he does. So it's one of those situations where I feel like people need to realize, yes, those moments are frustrating, but those moments wouldn't happen if he were not on the pitch at all. We wouldn't have those chances if he weren't playing because he creates those chances. He helps set those chances up either by his good runs, either by the touch that he has on the ball, because he can actually play. He can knock it around. Not all the time. Sometimes, especially when his confidence is low, you can tell his pass is a little bit off. But when he's playing at confidence after he scored, he looks so much more comfortable on the ball, and it looks like he can actually create something. As far as the subs, James came on, looked good, much more comfortable in defense than Gusto was, and much more comfortable on the ball as well, which definitely helped. Sancho came on, got himself a goal. I really hope that this is kind of a turning point for him, because I wouldn't mind if we kept him and gave him a shot next season. I think Maresca needs to give him more of a shot because, as I said, he started scoring and assisting, and then Matty Wake came back, and Maresca was just like, all right, well, you're not scoring and assisting, but you're Matty Wake, so you're playing. You're scoring and assisting, but you're Sancho, so you're not Matty Wake. Sit on the bench. And didn't matter if Sancho came off the bench and scored, didn't matter if he scored in the Conference League, didn't matter what he was doing, didn't matter what Matty Wake was doing because he wasn't giving us anything. At the end of the day, Matty Wake started over Sancho every time, and I just feel like it's such a mistake. I think Sancho has much more to his game than Matty Wake does, and I think even if we do end up just selling him, I think he's still a good player to bring in, and heck, we could make a profit off of him. 25 million? I'm sure if he has a good season next year, or even a half-decent one, I'm sure there's a club that would come in and pay more than 25 for him. Dortmund would probably love to have him back for more than that. Colwill came on, looked comfortable, solidified our back line a lot more, looks more comfortable on the ball than Badiashile, much more solid defensively than Badiashile. So it really helped us to make sure there were no more opportunities for Betis from that point on. Dewsbury-Hall got himself an assist, which was a good moment for him. But yeah, he just came on to kind of put another body in the midfield, and that was perfectly fine. He didn't do anything spectacular. He was out there for his legs and did fine in that regard. And then Guillou didn't really have much time to get into the game, so didn't really expect much from him anyway. I was really just disappointed that George didn't get a chance to come on, but c'est la vie. We move on, got ourselves the trophy that we really should be getting. It's one of those I'd much rather have it and be like, okay, well, not really much to it, rather than not have it and be absolutely embarrassed that we let Betis get one over on us. But with all that being said, our season has officially come to a close. We do have the Club World Cup coming up soon. I will be taking a little bit of a retrospective look at the season, as well as maybe look ahead to the transfer window opening up and kind of talk about some of the players that I wouldn't mind seeing leave, some players that I wouldn't mind bringing in, all of that stuff. So look ahead to that. This video might go up tomorrow because, like I said, I've got a game to go to tonight, so I don't think I'll have time to edit this. But those are all of my thoughts, so let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game today? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews. Also, check out the channel. We have a lot of other reviews on here as well as some Let's Plays, so check those out if you have time. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you all later. Peace out.